The declaration, the hall of the Galactic Council, trembled with sound. Thousands of alien delegates filled the chamber, their voices overlapping like thunder in storm. Screens high above displayed a single word written in Council standard: war. On. The floor, banners of every species flickered to life, except one. The human banner dot. It wasn't their dot, because humanity had no seat in this chamber. No voice, no right to defend itself. The council speaker, a tall insectoid with glassy wings, spread his mandibles wide. His voice echoed through translation orbs, hanging above every delegate. Humanity has been judged guilty of crimes against the stars. Their expansion, their reckless industry, their refusal to submit to regulation, these are threats to the balance of the galaxy. By vote of the Council, the species called human is declared hostile. From this day forward, they are enemies of the galaxy. No sanctuary, no trade, no mercy. Gasps, cheers, hisses. The decision had been made. Billions would die, but not all. In the chamber agreed. A single delegate sat frozen in his seat, fists clenched, throat tight with shame. His name was Kyle Vareen, of the Oreth people. He was no human, but he had lived among them. He knew them. He owed them his life. And somewhere in the shadows of the galaxy, a human was listening. On a mining moon, orbiting a pale green gas giant, a man sat in silence, watching the council feed on a cracked display. Elias Rourke. Former soldier, mechanic, survivor. The image of the word war burned into his eyes. He exhaled, slow, heavy, like a man who already knew this day would come. He muttered to himself, "So that's it. They finally did it." The feed cut out. Static dot the mining station around. Him groaned with ancient machinery. Pipes leaked steam. Rust covered the walls. Elias stood, wiping his hands on his coveralls, his jaw tightening. He'd lived in exile for 5 years, far from Earth, working ships that barely held together. He thought he'd escaped war. He thought he'd buried that part of himself. But the council had just dug it back up. A voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Elias, you heard it too?" He turned. Standing in the doorway was Serenia, an Oreth engineer. Her gray skin glistened faintly under the lights, and her 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of nervousness. He nodded. "Yeah, I heard." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The council is already moving fleets. They'll burn your colonies first. Then Earth. You have to leave." Elias looked away, jaw set. "Leave where?" "There's nowhere left for us." Serenia's throat quivered in sympathy. "Then fight?" Her words struck him like a hammer. "Fight? Against the entire galaxy? Insanity." But then again, so was humanity. The sound of alarms shook the station. Red lights flashed. A deep voice echoed through the halls. Council fleet detected. Approaching orbit. Serenia's eyes widened. "They're here already." Elias grabbed a wrench, more instinct than thought. Not a weapon, but a start. He muttered under his breath, almost a prayer, almost a curse. "All right then. If they want a war, they'll damn well get one." The mining station shuddered as enemy warships descended through the green clouds. The council had declared humanity's end. But Elias Rourke was not about to go quietly. Asterisk. Ashes of the first battle. First strike hit like a hammer. Metal screamed. Fire poured through the ventilation shafts. Miners and engineers scattered like insects. Council soldiers stormed the corridors, tall reptilian warriors in black armor, their rifles glowing with plasma. Elias dragged Serenia behind cover as the invaders opened fire. Sparks lit the air. "Stay." "Down," Elias barked, wrench in hand. A miner fell beside him, chest burned through. Blood steamed on the floor. Elias's heart kicked. He hadn't felt this in years. the old soldier instincts clawing back. He wasn't just a mechanic. Not today. He grabbed the dead miner's rifle and popped up, firing 3 sharp bursts. One soldier dropped. Another staggered. Serenia gasped. You killed them." Elias didn't answer. He was already moving, already thinking. The station had fuel lines, pressure locks, half-broken machinery, all weapons. If used right, he knew what he had to do. He grabbed Serenia by the arm. "You know the pipes better than anyone. Show me where to cut." Her 4 eyes blinked fast. Fear, hesitation, then resolve. "Follow me." Through the burning corridors, Elias and Serenia worked. He shot. She cut power lines, rerouted valves, filled sections with steam so thick the council troops stumbled blind. The miners rallied. Humans and Orith together, armed with tools and scavenged rifles. Every hallway became a trap. Every door a choke point. Every machine a weapon. The council had numbers, firepower, technology, but humanity had rage. Elias led them like a ghost through the smoke, shouting orders, slamming doors shut behind enemies, venting fuel to ignite corridors in. FIRESTORM stot. The station shook with chaos dot, and for the first time in the galaxy's history, council troops fell back confused, bloodied, broken by a species they thought weak. Hours later, silence fell. Bodies littered the station. Smoke still poured from vents. But the council ship in orbit was gone, retreating into the gas giants. Storms. Serenia leaned against the wall, trembling, staring at Elias. You fought them off. With nothing. With broken pipes and scrap. Elias tossed the burnt rifle aside. His face was hard, unreadable. They'll be back, with more, and next time. This station won't survive. Serenia swallowed. Then, we run. Elias shook his head. No, we can't just run. He turned to the surviving miners. Their eyes were on him now, not just with gratitude, but with something more dangerous. Hope. The council thinks we're scattered, weak, alone, but they don't know what humans really are. We don't quit. We don't kneel. And we sure as hell don't die quiet. His voice grew louder, echoing through the ruined station. If they've declared war on us, then we make them regret it. The room erupted with cheers, half human, half alien. For the first time, Elias allowed himself a thin smile. The council had started a fire, but humanity was about to burn the galaxy. The spark. Would you like me to continue writing all? 7 parts in one go, approximately 10,000 words straight, no breaks? It'll be very long in one single response. Or would you prefer I deliver part by part, 1,400 to 1,500 words each, so you can review and adjust before I push out the full epic? You said next chat GPT said. Perfect. Let's continue with part 3. 1,400 to 1,500 words of the story. Already built the setup. Council declares war. Elias and Serenia fight back on the mining station, and the first spark of resistance is lit. Now we escalate. Part 3. The spark, the station floated like a broken husk above the pale green gas. Giant, its outer hull scarred with fire. Inside, the survivors worked in silence. Welding torches hissed, metal groaned, smoke hung heavy. Elias stood in the control chamber, staring at the fractured star map flickering on the display. Red icons marked the council fleets. Hundreds of them, each moving in formation like blades closing on prey. And Earth at the center. Serenia entered quietly, carrying a canister of water. She offered it. Elias drank, then set it down without a word. You haven't slept, she said softly. He shook his head. No time. Serenia's 4 eyes studied him. You're planning something. Elias exhaled. The council thinks this was just a fluke, a lucky fight. They don't know what humans are capable of when we're cornered. He tapped the display, zooming in on the nearby systems. One icon blinked the council fuel depot, orbiting a barren moon. There, he said. If we hit that supply hub, we can cripple the fleet hunting this sector. By Earth sometime. Serenia's throat trembled. You want to strike them? With what? Half-dead miners and broken tools? Elias's lips curved in something between. A grimace and a smile. With whatever we've got. Humanity's always fought with less. They worked for 2 days. The miners stripped down cargo haulers, turning them into makeshift gunboats. Turbines were reinforced with plating ripped from the walls. Fuel lines rerouted, scrap metal hammered into armor. Serenia's hands moved fast, her engineering instincts sharpening under Elias's relentless drive. This isn't a fleet, she muttered. Elias grinned. Nope, it's a fist. One of the miners, a young man with grease-streaked cheeks, raised a concern. Even if we reach the depot, how do we beat their defenses? Elias picked up a piece of chalk and sketched on the wall crude, simple. He drew the depot, its fuel silos lined like pillars, the council ships in orbit. Then he drew a line through them with one word underlined, asterisk. Boom. The room fell silent. Elias's eyes burned with old fire. We don't fight their fleet head-on. We don't need to. We hit them where they're fat and slow, make their own fuel burn against them. Serenia stared at the drawing. That could. Ignite half the depot. Exactly. The day of the strike arrived. 3 cargo haulers crept through the darkness, engines muffled, hulls blackened with soot to hide from scanners. Inside, miners clutched rifles, their eyes hard with fear and resolve. Elias stood at the front, checking the straps on his patched armor. Remember, he growled, we're ghosts until the first shot. No fear, no hesitation. You see the target, you burn it. Serenia sat at the console, her hands hovering over the controls. She whispered, more to herself than anyone, this is madness. Elias rested a hand on her shoulder. Yeah, that's what makes it work. The depot appeared ahead, a skeletal. Station wrapped around the barren moon, its silos glowing faint orange with stored plasma fuel. Council ships drifted nearby, lazy, confident in their dominance. The haulers slid closer, silent. Unnoticed Dot, then, had Elias's signal, the first hauler. Cut engines and vented a stream of fuel into space. The second ignited it with a plasma shot. The void erupted. A fireball ripped across the depot's perimeter, engulfing 2 council frigates before they even raised shields. Alarm sirens wailed. Beams of energy cut through the darkness. Elias slammed. The throttle. Go, go. The miners roared as their ships dived toward the depot. Makeshift cannons spat molten scrap. Pipes burst, turning corridors into death traps. Council fighters swarmed, sleek and deadly. But Elias flew like a man possessed, juking through wreckage, skimming the edge of explosions. Serenia's voice shook as she tracked targets. Shields. Failing. We can't take another hit. Elias gritted his teeth. Then we don't get hit. They reached the silos. Elias fired a magnetic charge, lodging it against the fuel tanks. Serenia's hands danced over the detonator. Her 4 eyes locked on Elias's. This will kill us too. Yeah, he said calmly. Unless we're faster. The charge blew. The silos went up in a chain reaction, one after another, a cascading inferno that swallowed half the depot. The shock wave hurled ships apart, flames boiling in the vacuum. Elias's hauler barely scraped clear, hull shuddering, alarm screaming. But when the fire faded, the council fleet in this sector was gone, obliterated in their own blaze. The miners erupted in cheers. Serenia stared in stunned silence. Elias leaned back, sweat dripping, chest heaving. For the first time since the Council's declaration, he allowed himself a grim laugh. 1 down, he muttered. 1,000 to go. Later, as they floated in the wreckage, Serenia turned to him. You just made humanity the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They'll send more fleets, entire armadas. Elias's eyes hardened. Good, let them come. The galaxy just learned something it should have known a long time ago. He looked out at the burning ruins of the depot, his voice low, almost reverent. Humans don't fight fair. We fight to win. But in the council chambers light years away, the news struck like lightning. The speaker slammed his claws on the podium. Impossible. A single outpost destroyed a fleet. Kale Varine rose from his seat, heart pounding. He whispered to himself, they're not fighting alone anymore. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council felt fear. And for humanity, the war had only just begun. Asterisk, the galaxy reacts news traveled faster than light dot by the time Elias. And the survivors limped back into the shadow of the green gas giant. The entire sector was buzzing. Pirate channels, smuggler relays, merchant gossip all carried the same unbelievable rumor. A handful of humans and aliens had destroyed a council. Fleet docked in the darkness of a council chamber. The speaker's mandibles clicked furiously. Delegates screeched and hissed, voices overlapping in outrage. This is a violation of order. They should not even have ships. Humans are animals. The speaker silenced them with a thunderous slam of his claw. No more delays. We will deploy the purge fleets. Humanity will be erased before this infection spreads. But one voice rose against the storm. Kale Varine. He stood, trembling but defiant. His long coat swayed as he stepped into the light. His 4 eyes gleamed with conviction. You don't understand what you've unleashed. Humans are not like us. They don't bend to decrees. They don't cower before fleets. You push them into a corner, and they'll set the galaxy on fire just to survive. The chamber erupted in laughter, mockery. The speaker hissed. Then they will burn in their own flames. Kale's voice dropped, cold. No, you will. Meanwhile, aboard the battered mining hauler, Elias sat in silence as Serenia stitched a gash across his arm. You don't stop moving, she muttered. You don't stop fighting. Not even to heal. Elias winced, but didn't flinch. Pain keeps me sharp. She paused, her 4 eyes studying him. What are you running from, Elias Rourke? He looked away. His reflection stared back from the cracked console. A tired face, scarred, older than his years. Earth, he said at last. I was there the day the Council bombed our first colony on Mars. My squad tried to hold them off. We failed. Lost everyone. I swore I'd never fight again. But his fist tightened. They don't give me a choice anymore. Serenia tied the bandage. Her voice softened. You fight. Not just for revenge. You fight because you care. That's why people follow you. Elias gave a dry laugh. Care? I'm just too damn stubborn to lie down. But Serenia didn't answer. She didn't need to. She saw what he couldn't admit. Over the next weeks, whispers of Elias's victory spread like wildfire. Refugees fleeing council crackdowns spoke his name. Miners lit signal beacons, hoping he would come. Even some alien species oppressed under the council began to wonder if humanity's fight was theirs too. The council tried to bury the stories, called them lies, propaganda, but the galaxy had already tasted the truth. And truth is a fire, no. Decree can smother. Then the message came, a coded signal. Faint, bouncing through a dozen relays before reaching Elias's ship. Serenia decrypted it, her hands trembling. It's from humans, she whispered. From Earth. Elias froze. His throat went dry. He hadn't heard a human voice from Home in years. The transmission crackled, distorted, but the words broke through. This is Admiral Kane of Earth Command. If you're receiving this, we know what you did at the depot. We know humanity isn't beaten. We're gathering what's left. Join us. Fight with us. Humanity will rise. The signal cut. Elias's heart pounded. For a moment, the weight of exile lifted. He wasn't alone. Earth was still alive. Serenia's voice broke the silence. You have to go. Elias stared at the stars ahead. His jaw tightened. Yeah, but first, we need a fleet. The next strike was bold, not sabotage, not hit and run. A heist. The Council maintained shipyards in orbit of a shattered world, a graveyard of stone, rings glittering with frozen debris. Elias's plan was simple, insane, and utterly human. Steal their warships. The survivors trained. Miners became soldiers. Mechanics became saboteurs. Serenia drilled them relentlessly, her precision balancing Elias's chaos. You're not fighters, she told them, but you're thinkers. Adapt. Learn fast. That's what makes humans dangerous. Elias added his own lesson, standing before the ragtag crew, scarred hands gripping the railing. The Council fights with rules, lines, ranks. Forget all that. We fight dirty. We fight smart. We fight like humans. They launched under cover of the shattered planet's rings, debris masking their approach. The Council shipyard loomed ahead vast, bristling with guns, crawling with workers and guards. Elias's heart hammered. He'd led squads before. Missions. Battles. But never something this insane. Remember, he whispered into the comb. They've got numbers. We've got guts. Let's show 'em what that's worth. Asterisk. The assault began. The miners cut through docking clamps with plasma torches. Explosions rippled across the shipyard. Council guards scrambled, unprepared for resistance. Elias led the charge aboard a half-built destroyer. He fought with brutal precision, rifle cracking, wrench swinging when ammo ran dry. Serenia hacked the ship's systems, overriding locks, rerouting power. The crew seized the bridge. The destroyer came alive, engines roaring, guns turning against. Its own builders. Council frigates closed in, raining fire. But Elias grinned, teeth bared. Let's see how they like their own toys. The destroyer unleashed hell. Beams lanced through the void, tearing ships apart. Docking bays crumbled. Workers fled in every direction. By the time the smoke cleared, Elias's crew had stolen not one, but 3 warships. The galaxy would remember this night. In the council chamber, panic spread. Delegates shrieked of rebellion. Whispers of uprising spread among oppressed species. The speaker slammed his claws, desperate to reassert control. No more hesitation. Burn Earth to ash before this spark becomes wildfire. The chamber erupted in approval. But Kale Varine sat in silence, his fists clenched. Because he knew the wildfire had already begun. Asterisk aboard the stolen destroyer. Elias stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. His crew celebrated around him. Serenia approached quietly. You did it, she said. You have a fleet now. Elias's voice was low, steady, burning with purpose. No, I've got a war. He turned toward Earth's distant star and swore the Council would never forget what humanity could do. Asterisk. Fire over Earth. The stolen destroyer cut through the void like a predator, its hull still scarred from the heist. Inside, the crew moved with nervous energy. They weren't soldiers, but now they fought as if they had always been. Elias stood at the center of the bridge, hands locked behind his back, eyes fixed on the star map ahead. Red icons clustered near Sol, the mark of the Council's purge fleet. Dozens of warships. Enough to scour Earth to dust. His jaw clenched. Punch it. Full burn. Engines roared. The destroyer leapt through the darkness. The journey took days. Days filled with tension, with whispered fears, with the sound of steel boots on metal floors. Serenia worked endlessly at the consoles, reprogramming systems, welding circuits, turning stolen council tech into something human hands could wield. One point, she looked up at Elias, exhaustion etched into her gray features. "You know this is suicide," she said. Elias didn't look away from the stars. "Yeah." Her throat trembled. "And you're still going." He finally turned, his scarred face softening. "It's Earth, Serenia. My people. My home. I'd crawl through hell itself if it meant saving them." She held his gaze, her 4 eyes glimmering with something unspoken. And she whispered, "Then I'll crawl with you." When they arrived at Seoul, the sight froze the crew. The Purge fleet was already there. Council warships darkened Earth's skies, blotting out the stars. Cities burned. Oceans boiled under orbital strikes. The blue planet was scarred with fire. Gasps filled the bridge. Miners cursed. One wept. Elias's fists tightened until his knuckles bled. His voice was low, cold. "Not while I breathe." The stolen destroyer plunged into the fray. Council ships turned, caught off guard by one of their own breaking formation. Elias barked orders, his voice a whip. "Target their engines. Cut their throats before they can fire back." The destroyer's cannons unleashed fury. Plasma beams ripped through hulls. Fighters scattered, but the Purge fleet was massive. Too many, too strong. Explosions rocked the bridge. Consoles sparked. A hull breach sealed with emergency shutters. Serenia shouted, "We can't hold this. They'll tear us apart." Elias's eyes burned. "Then we make them choke on the pieces." And then dash betrayal. The cum crackled. A voice Elias knew all too well. Elias Rourke, still alive. "I should have guessed." Elias froze. His blood went cold. "Major Strass," he whispered. The voice laughed, bitter and cruel. Strass had been his commanding officer back on Mars. A man who abandoned his own during the council assault. Elias had thought him dead, but here he was alive and wearing council colors. "Humanity can't win, Rourke," Strass sneered. "I saw it years ago. That's why I joined the only side that matters. The council offers survival. You offer extinction." Elias's teeth ground. "You sold out Earth. I saved myself," Strass spat. "And I'll save what scraps of humanity will listen. The rest, ashes." The Comcot, on the star map, one of the Purge fleet's flagships turned. And Elias understood the truth. Strass commanded it. Rage boiled in Elias's chest. But rage couldn't win battles. Not this one. He forced himself calm. "We change the plan. Forget the fleet. We take down Strass's flagship. Cut the head, the body stumbles." Serenia's eyes widened. "That ship is 10 times our size." Elias gave a grim smile. "Good thing we fight dirty." The battle became chaos. The destroyer weaved between enemy fire, scraping the edges of Earth's atmosphere. Clouds churned with firestorms. Cities glowed faint red below. Elias led them in close, so close the flagship's cannons couldn't lock without. Hitting their own allies. Boarding run. Elias roared. The crew stared in shock. Serenia gasped. "Board what?" Elias slammed his fist on the console. "We're not killing that bastard with guns. We take the fight to his bridge." The destroyer smashed into the flagship's hull. Docking clamps tearing metal. Airlocks hissed. Elias grabbed his rifle, eyes burning. He looked at Serenia. "Stay here." "If I don't come back?" Her throat quivered. "Don't you dare finish that sentence." He almost smiled. Almost. Then he turned, leading a squad of miners into the breach. The corridors of the flagship were a nightmare of steel and smoke. Council soldiers poured in, armored and armed, but Elias fought like a demon. His rifle spat fire, his wrench cracked skulls, his fists broke armor. Miners followed, shouting, bleeding, refusing to fall. They cut their way deck by deck, closer to the bridge. And finally the doors loomed ahead. Elias kicked them open. There he was. Major Strass, older, scarred, draped in council armor, but unmistakable. He stood at the command dais, sneering down at Elias like a vulture. "Well, well," Strass said, "the ghost of Mars." Elias raised his rifle. "This ends now." Strass laughed, spreading his arms. "You can't kill me, Rourke. You kill me. You kill your own chance at survival. The council will never stop. But with me, humanity has a place." Elias's hands trembled with fury. "You abandoned us," he growled. "You let my squad die. You let Earth burn." Strass's eyes hardened. "I did what I had to. That's the difference between us. You fight for ideals. I fight to live." Elias's finger tightened on the trigger, but Strass pressed a button on his wrist. Alarms wailed. The ship shook. He sneered. "If I die, this ship dies with me. And so does Earth." The miners gasped. Fire erupted outside the viewport as weapons charged, aimed at the planet below. Serenia's voice crackled through the calm, desperate. "Elias!" "If he fires, Earth won't survive." Elias stood frozen. One shot would kill Strass, but that same shot might doom Earth. His mind raced. His heart thundered. And for the first time since Mars, Elias didn't know what to do. Asterisk. The choice the flagship shuddered. Warning sirens screamed. Outside the viewport, Earth burned under the council's orbital fire. Elias stood with his rifle leveled at Strass. The man who had once been his commander now stood draped in council armor, fingers poised. Over a console that could annihilate half the planet, Strass sneered, voice calm despite the chaos. "Do it, Rourke. Pull the trigger. Prove you're no different from me. But when you do, your home dies with me." Elias's hands trembled. His heart thundered in his chest. Behind him, a miner shifted nervously, weapons raised. None dared fire. Over the comm, Serenia's voice broke through, breathless and urgent. "Elias, think. If that flagship fires, Earth is finished. You have to stop him without killing him." Elias gritted his teeth. "Without killing him? You got a trick up your sleeve I don't know about?" "You're human," Serenia snapped. "Find a way." Strass tapped the console. The ship's main cannon began to charge, a deep vibration, rattling through the deck plates. Energy built, a glowing sphere at the core of the weapon. Strass's smile was cold. "Tick-tock, soldier. Time's running out." Elias's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to shoot, to end it. But if Strass's dead hand triggered the cannon, Earth would burn. His eyes flicked around the bridge, the consoles, the wiring, the ceiling panels. And then he saw it, a coolant line, running just above Strass's position. Fragile, vulnerable. Elias lowered his aim just slightly. Strass frowned. "What are you?" Elias fired. Asterisk, the bullet tore through the coolant line. Superheated vapor erupted, spraying Strass in the face. He screamed, staggering back, blinded. His hand slipped from the console. The charge sputtered. The cannon shut down. Elias surged forward, slamming Strass to the ground with brutal force. The miners roared. The bridge was theirs. Strass writhed, clutching his scorched face, gasping in pain. "You bastard, you can't win." Elias stood over him, rifle aimed down. His voice was low, dangerous. "You don't know what winning looks like anymore, Strass. You traded your soul for survival. But survival without honor, without people, isn't living." Strass spat blood. And what are you? A hero? Humanity will die screaming. The council is too strong. Elias leaned closer, eyes blazing. Then we'll make the galaxy scream louder. He slammed the butt of his rifle into Strass's head. The traitor went limp. The miners cheered, but Elias didn't smile. He looked out the viewport at Earth below, scarred, bleeding, but still alive. The battle wasn't over. The Purge fleet still raged in orbit. Ships closing in on the flagship. Serenia's voice crackled over comms. Asterisk. Elias, the fleet's converging on your position. You won't survive if you stay. Elias exhaled, slow and heavy. His voice was calm, almost resigned. Then we don't stay. They moved fast. Serenia guided them through the flagship systems, rerouting power, disabling safeties. When Elias reached the command dais again, she appeared on the holoscreen, her 4 eyes wide with strain. Elias, I can overload the flagship's reactor. Detonate it. Take the Purge fleet with it, the miners gasped. Elias froze. That'll kill you too, he said. Serenia's throat quivered. Not if someone stays behind to control the overload manually. Elias's chest tightened. He shook his head violently. No, don't you dare. Her voice was soft, steady, resolute. Asterisk. Elias, you told me once humans don't fight fair, that they fight to win. Well, maybe I learned that too. His heart twisted. Serenia, the cum cut. On the bridge of the stolen destroyer, Serenia's hands danced across the console, her eyes glistening. She whispered to herself, For you, Elias. For humanity. She locked the controls. The overload began. The flagship shook, alarm screaming. Elias realized what she had done. He slammed his fist against the console, fury and grief ripping through him. Serenia, no, don't you leave me like this. But only static answered. The miners dragged him back. We have to go, Elias. Now. He fought them, shouting, but the truth was undeniable. The countdown had begun. With Strass unconscious at his feet and the Purge fleet closing in. Elias had no choice. They fled back to the destroyer. The airlock sealed. Engines roared. Through the viewport, Elias saw the flagship's core burning. Bright white, energy spilling from every crack. The council ships tried to scatter. Too late, the flagship exploded. The blast ripped across orbit, a sun of fire tearing ships to shreds. The Purge fleet disintegrated, fragments raining down into Earth's atmosphere like shooting stars. The sky burned, and then cleared. On the destroyer's bridge, silence fell. Elias stood frozen, staring at the wreckage. His crew looked to him for words, but he had none. His heart ached with loss, heavier than the war itself. He whispered, so soft only he could. Here. Damn you, Serenia. You didn't have to prove it. But the galaxy had seen. The Council's invincible Purge fleet destroyed. By humans. By one human, and one alien who believed in them. For the first time in centuries, the stars trembled with change. And Elias Rourke, scarred and grieving, became more than a survivor. He became the face of humanity's war. Far away, in a council chamber, panic reigned. The speaker's mandibles clattered in rage. Delegates shrieked, demanding answers. Kale Varine rose, his voice carrying over the din. You declared war on humanity, and they burned your fleets. You tried to crush them, and they rose stronger. You call them savages. I call them what they are, the future. The chamber fell silent. And for the first time in living memory, the council speaker had no reply. Asterisk, we're in the council. The wreckage of the Purge fleet still glittered in Earth's skies, streaks of fire slowly fading into the void. On the bridge of the stolen destroyer, Elias stood unmoving. His crew celebrated around him, cheers, embraces, tears of joy. But his eyes were fixed on the stars, haunted. Serenia's face still lingered there, in his mind. The way her 4 eyes burned with conviction before she made her choice. She had believed in him, in humanity, enough to die for it, and that meant he had no right to stop now. Weeks passed, Earth bled, but it lived. Cities smoldered, oceans boiled. Millions were dead. But survivors dug through rubble, built shelters, and whispered Elias's name like a prayer. Across the galaxy, the impossible victory spread like wildfire. The Council's purge fleet destroyed. Their myth of invincibility shattered. Species long enslaved or silenced began to stir. Miners refused quotas. Farmers withheld harvests. Smugglers ferried weapons instead of tribute. And more and more. They reached out to the humans. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just fighting for itself, that it was leading a rebellion. Elias met with Earth Command deep beneath the ruins of Washington. Admiral Kane, gray-haired and scarred, clasped his hand with grim respect. "You did what no one thought possible," Kane said. "You gave us time. You gave us hope." Elias shook his head. "I gave you wreckage. Hope's something you'll have to build yourself." Kane's eyes narrowed. "We can't do it alone. The Council will return, with more fleets, more fire. We need allies, and you. You seem to be the one they listen to." Elias stiffened. "I'm no diplomat." "No," Kane admitted. "You're something better. You're a soldier who refuses to die. That's what the galaxy needs to see." And so Elias found himself where no human had ever stood before, inside the council chamber, the heart of the galaxy's order, the towering spire of steel and crystal, lit by suns harvested from dying stars. Delegates hissed and shouted the moment he entered. Guards raised weapons. The speaker's mandibles clicked furiously. "A human? Here? This is an abomination." Elias walked forward anyway, boots echoing on the polished floor. He wore no medals, no polished uniform, just scarred armor and weary eyes. Kale Varine stood waiting, tall and proud. The Orith, who had once sat silent, now stepped to Elias's side. "This is Elias Rourke," Kale declared. "The human who burned your fleet. The human who stands when all others fall." The chamber erupted in outrage. The speaker's voice boomed. "You are nothing, a relic of a dying race. Do you truly think you can stand against the Council?" Elias's voice was low, steady, carrying through the hall. "We already are." Gasps, murmurs. Elias stepped closer to the podium, his gaze sweeping over the alien delegates. "You declared war on humanity. You thought we'd bow, or beg, or die quiet. But you don't understand what humans are. We don't kneel. We don't quit. You burn our homes. We rebuild in the ashes. You kill us. We bury our dead and come back swinging." He jabbed a finger at them, his voice rising. "You call yourselves rulers of the galaxy, but you rule through fear. And now the galaxy has seen fear break. They've seen your fleets burn. They've seen your power crumble." He leaned forward, eyes blazing. "And they've seen what one stubborn, furious, broken species can do when you back it into a corner." The speaker hissed, rising to his full insectoid height. "Enough. Humanity is a disease. We will cleanse." Elias's lips curled in a thin, dangerous smile. "You tried." He pointed upward, toward the stars beyond the chamber's dome. "Look at your fleets. Look at your ashes. You thought you were fire. But humanity? Humanity's wildfire. And wildfire doesn't stop until the whole forest burns." Silence. For the first time in centuries, the council chamber was silent, and then Cal Varine's voice rang out. "I stand with humanity." One delegate rose, then another. And another dot species oppressed for generations stood, their voices trembling but fierce. We stand with them. We will fight. No more chains. The speaker roared in fury, mandibles flaring. Traitors! You doom us all. But his voice was drowned out by the sound of rebellion. Elias turned, walking from the chamber, as chaos erupted behind him. Cale hurried to his side, breathless. You lit the spark? They'll never forget today. Elias's jaw was tight, his eyes shadowed with grief. They'd better not. Too many died for it. Cale hesitated, then placed a hand on his shoulder. Serenia would have been proud. Elias stopped, pain flashing across his face. He didn't answer. Couldn't. But deep inside, he knew Cale was right. That night, Elias stood alone on a balcony overlooking the stars. Earth still burned. The council still existed. The war was far from over, but humanity was no longer alone. All across the galaxy, fires of rebellion were spreading. Ships painted with human flags rose from hiding. Aliens once silenced raised weapons, voices, banners, and it had started here. With one mechanic, one soldier, one human too stubborn to die. Elias whispered into the night, to the memory of the friend he'd lost. You were right, Serenia. Humans don't fight fair, and we don't fight alone either. Not anymore. He tightened his fists, his eyes hard with fire. The council declared war on us. Now we'll burn their whole damn galaxy. Epilogue: in the dark reaches of space, a lone beacon lit, broadcasting across every channel. A simple human voice, rough but unbroken. This is Elias Rourke. Humanity lives. And if you want freedom, if you want to fight, then fight with U.S. The signal spread, unstoppable dot, and for the first time in history, the galaxy trembled not at the council, but at the rise of humanity.